Okay, I want to welcome everyone. This is Ron DeNure, and your personal host for Personal Growth Recipes. And I've got a special guest today. This is my first interview that I've done for my podcast. And when I started this, I wanted a goal of having and sharing insights and character strengths worth duplicating from people that we admire and respect. And I want to introduce to you my mom, Shirley. And she's wearing a sling. Do you want to tell us what happened there?
Yes, a week ago Saturday, I slipped and fell and broke my collarbone. Ouch.
Ouch, yeah. So she was not in a bar somewhere. It was literally
right outside my apartment.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, she's doing well though. Okay. But the reason I wanted to interview Mom was, she's got a lot of good experiences and background, and I know a couple of her strengths. Her greatest strengths are willingness to help other people, and I call it just being plain unselfish. And I also know she's got a pretty good sense of humor and will enjoy a good laugh now and then. So I want to thank Mom for taking the time and being willing to share her insights. So we'll get started. And I really want to start with her childhood. We'll kind of go back to the beginning here, okay? So just to give people some insight, just what year were you born?
1935.
35. So do the math. 84 years young, correct? Going on 85.
Right.
Yeah. Now, let's go way back. Do you have any memories of your grandparents?
Yes, I do. My grandmother, Peterson, used to come and stay with us to help my mother. And my grandma never spoke a word of American. She only spoke Norwegian, but we seemed to be able to communicate with her. And I know one of the things that she used to do for us kids was she would make the prettiest flowers just out of tissue paper. In the last 15 years of her life, she was bedridden from arthritis, and she stayed with my Aunt Hilda and Uncle Louis. In fact, Aunt Hilda and Uncle Louis took in my mother and her siblings as my grandfather died at a very young age of 29 in a car accident. My other grandparents are Grandpa and Grandma Schlim, and they lived on a farm, and I used to love to go there because Grandma always made homemade ice cream, and I remember them taking me to the movies in Warren, and that was something that I never got to do otherwise because my own mother was not able to do that for me.
Wow. So that was, you got to think about this. This was the 1940s, correct?
Yes,
yeah?
correct.
So
yes, it would be the 40s, yes.
World War II was going on.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yep. And going up one generation, how about your parents? Do you have any special memories?
My parents were divorced when I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And so I don't recall my father very much because he wasn't around very much, but I do recall my mother. My mother, I give her so much credit because she was able to keep me and my siblings, which I have one sister and 5 brothers, and she was able to keep us all together, and I give her much credit for that. She was probably the best mom, and I just give her so much credit for her being able to keep us all together.
Yep. And we knew her as just Grandma Miller, that she was truly amazing, an amazing person. Do you have any memories growing up as a child that kind of stick out?
Yes, I remember I loved to stay at my cousins because they had different more things to play with and do than what we had at home. And and as kids, I remember that we didn't have like what the kids have today. We did board games and we played cards and we listened to a lot of music on the radio. and things like that.
Yep.
The music at that time were country and big bands, and
Yep.
it still is my favorite today.
Yep. And going to school, you went to school. Where did you go to school?
I went to several grade schools. In fact, from grade 1 through grade 1 through 3, I went to I went to Kishwaukee and Lincoln Park schools in Rockford, Illinois. Then my mother, after my parents were divorced, we moved to Woodford, and so I went to Woodford school from 4th grade through 7th grade, and then my mother remarried, and then I went to Rush School and Jennings School in my 8th grade, and then from there I went to high school.
Yep, and that was basically a one-room schoolhouse, right?
Yes, they
Pretty
were.
much?
Yes,
Until
they
you got,
were.
Until
Yes,
you got to high school?
yes. But of course, in Lincoln Park and Kishwaukee, they were not a one-room school because that's a bigger city, at Rockford. And that was, you got to take. This was like in 1944. It was before the war was over. 43, 44, something like that.
Yep. Do you have any favorite subjects you remember back then?
Back then, I loved to read. I know that I have somewhere, I don't know where I found this, but I know like when I was in 8th grade, I read over 100 books. So I did like to read back then.
Oh.
Yes.
100 books, okay.
And I loved world history.
Okay. Yeah.
I still like world history.
Did you get to do any school activities?
Yes. When I was in high school, of course, we didn't have girls' sports back then, but I was in band and chorus. I remember taking vocal solos, and I played the saxophone in the band, and I took saxophone solos.
Okay.
Like I said, in the band and chorus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Back then there were probably fads like they had. We grew up. Any ones that kind of stick out?
The black and white saddle shoes, and then we, of course, when I was a freshman, we were able to wear jeans. Otherwise, you couldn't wear pants. Girls could not wear slacks or pants. But once we were able to, we rolled them babies up. They had cuffs, cuffs on them.
Okay.
And like I said before, with country music and big band music was my favorites.
Do you guys have a television back then?
No way. We had a radio, and we listened to the radio. No,
Radio.
There was no such thing as TV. No.
Yeah. Yep. And what'd you guys do for fun? I mean,
I just hung out with my friends. I remember sleepovers with my friends and dancing. I love to dance, and I would yet to this day. But because of my legs, I broke a leg about 4 years ago that I don't dance much anymore.
it slowed you down one step, right?
Yeah, one step from that, yes.
Yeah. So, But anyway, so growing up, can you think of like one or two people off the top that maybe had more influence than others that kind of molded you into the kind of person you are today?
My mother. She made us feel special and showed me great love.
Yep, and that's pretty good, So that's your childhood. We're gonna jump on up to talk about marriage. And what year did you and Dad get married?
In 1950.
1950. And how'd you guys meet?
At Turner Hall, dancing.
Dancing. So, okay. But you were did you go to school together?
No, your dad graduated in 49, and I didn't start high school until the next year.
Okay. So you met at Turner Hall at a dance.
Yes.
Who did he ask you to dance?
Yes.
You remember?
Yes.
So, yeah. Now, can you share what qualities that you saw in Dad that you decided, this is the man I want to marry and raise a family with?
He was a very caring man, and he made me feel very special. He did that up to the day he died. He made me feel very special.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Yep. And I know you guys started your married life from very humble beginnings. Can you share with the audience any memories, like say, of a typical day in those early years?
Yes, financially we didn't have much money, but we hung in there and made do with what we had. We started out with Alvin worked as a farm hand. That was his, when we were first married, and then we went farming on our own, and that was a very, very, very stressful. And there again, we didn't have much material things, but then later we moved to a farm south of Broadhead, and we started to prosper there. And so eventually in the early 50s, we were able to purchase our own farm out of South Wayne, and we remained there for over 50 years.
Yep, and that was what, 1961, was it?
Yes, I think in 61, yes.
That's when you moved, yep. And,
yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that growing up, I don't think our dad milked more than 40 cows.
Correct.
And raised,
No.
what, 7, 8 of us?
Right, right, yes.
But just think, and a lot of families went through that,
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, financial challenges can put a lot of stress on a marriage. Did you guys have any financial challenges growing?
Yes, we had many challenges, but we didn't really let that bother us. I know your dad always made out a budget, and we tried to stick to that, and I think that's how we made it. He always was very, our kids always laughed because he wrote everything down, and they called it the book, and everything was in that book. But I think with him, by doing this budgeting, that's how we made it. I really do.
Yep, and I think that carried on to the next generation and beyond.
Yeah, you're very true, very true.
Yeah, he was very meticulous, very meticulous. As a married couple, what was your social life like back then? And what did you guys do for fun?
Okay, like I said, there wasn't much money, but at that time, nobody had much money. So we went to the neighbors. We played cards. Had make tuna fish sandwiches and a piece of cake. When we went to their house, they did the same. And then and another thing that we both loved to dance, so we did go to a lot of dances.
Yep, Turner Hall, and I know
Turner Hall, yes, and all the local
Yep.
dance halls around, yes.
Yep. And you were able to do some traveling as a couple, and I know you probably have some favorite trips, places.
Yes. In later years, we were able to travel. And one of my favorite things was we got to go to the Rose Bowl. Of course, the Badgers weren't in the Rose Bowl that year, but we went with my sister and brother and their spouses. And then in later years, we were able to go to Arizona to the Brewers training. We did that for the last few years. And then also we got to do cruises. We went to the Bahamas and Alaska, and we also went to Hawaii. And so we did have some, that made up, like earlier years, we didn't do hardly any of that because we just didn't have the funds to do that.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
And I know I can share one trip. I remember we went to South Dakota one year to Black Hills. Back then, they charged by how many people stayed in the room.
Yes.
And so we were in the back seat. I know Scott, we wanted him to duck down in the back seat, and he got his foot stuck underneath the seat. we could not get him out. I don't know if they ever charged extra for not. But
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that was kind of a neat thing back in the day, just to be able to do that. Very, very, something we appreciated. We lost Dad back in 2000. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years here. Mm-hmm. But you knew him better than anyone else. And looking back, what are some of the qualities or a couple of the qualities that he had that our listeners could maybe benefit from? He
was a very caring husband, and he loved his family very much, and he helped them out as much as he could, was always willing to help them out. Mm-hmm. And he was a very hard worker all of his life. It seems like not only did he farm, he also did a side job. He hauled milk, and that included hauling milk cans, which are very heavy. I don't know how much they weighed, but he would be able to do that. And he drove bus for the last 30 years of his life. Yes.
Yep. And he would get up, what, 4 o'clock
Yeah,
in the morning?
4 o'clock. I can remember Doc O'Connor, our local veterinarian, when the phone would ring at 4 o'clock in the morning, he said there's only 2 people this can be, and it has to be Alvin DeNure or Jim Crotty, because they're the only fools that got up. I'll never forget one time we were at Alvin's aunts and uncles for a meal, and then they asked Alvin, what time do you get up? And he said, 4:30. And they asked his brother George, what time do you get up? And he said, I don't get up till morning.
Now we're going to stay on the marriage subject here for just one last question. It's kind of a tough one in a way, but if you were a marriage counselor today, what's the best advice you want to you maybe give someone?
Okay. You have to work out your problems, and you have to listen to each other, and you also got to respect each other. And I think that's the most important thing, is the respect.
Respect. Yep. Words of wisdom there, folks. Words of wisdom. We're going to move on to what I call God, family, and country. And, this is one of the most famous quotes that we've always heard, God, family, and country in that order. Mm-hmm. Really, in reality, not everyone really lives by that in that order, I would say. So let's talk about God. Is faith a priority in your life?
Very much so. And I believe that's how I survived the death of our grandson Perry, our daughter Sandy, and my husband Alvin, was faith.
Mm-hmm. So it's very important. And I know growing up, you were very good about, we attended church, Sunday school.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. I don't remember doing this. It sounds cruel probably, but Carrie, our youngest one, always said when we sat in church, and if we wiggled or made too much noise, I'd reach over and pinch them. I don't remember doing that,
yeah.
But I wanted them to be quiet, I guess.
Yeah, it did work. Yeah, I remember that, actually. So you've seen a lot in your lifetime. Do you think over your lifetime, have our society's morals and values, have they increased, stayed the same, or decreased?
Decreased very much. I mean, I see kids. I sold tickets at ball games down at South Lane for many years, and I couldn't believe how some of the students would respond to their teachers, and also I think kids and their parents. The kids just don't respect their parents. I don't think like they should. And I think that's the downfall of this country. I really do. Is the morals have just went all to pieces.
You're right. It kind of relates to your personal relationship with the people closest to you. Correct. Unfortunately, we always think of it maybe as somewhere outside of our realm, but really a lot of us, our own personal relationships, people closest to us.
Right.
So if you could wave a magic wand, what are one or two things that you would like to improve or wish people would understand better?
Show more respect and listen to each other, and show more tolerance towards one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially, that I think that's pretty self-evident what we see today.
Correct.
Yep. So let's go to family. How important has family been for you?
Very, very important. I don't know what I would do without my family. They have been so good to me since their father died. They are the ones that helped me to, I think that's how I made, through my faith and through my family, that's how I survived.
Yep. And you grew up with a family and challenges along the way. I mean, we had 7, 8 kids, we lost one. Right? We lost one.
Yes,
lost one.
Correct.
How important is having a sense of humor and having a good laugh on a frequent basis?
a good sense of humor is very important, and laughing a lot is very good too. Family is everything to me. I have the greatest and I'm very blessed.
Yep. And I know growing up, you were surrounded by it with your side of the family, especially
Right.
the Petersons. A lot of our listeners probably remember Leo, Bernard, Tommy.
Tommy, yes.
I'm probably leaving out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and that sense of humor, man, I tell you, you can't underestimate it. Do you have any special memories of raising your family that kind of stick out?
Yeah, we raised, your dad and I raised some very special kids, and they respected their dad and me, and always had fun times together, and we still do have fun times together.
Yep. And what are one or two things about your immediate family? Now, I'm going to word this specifically. I would say that you're most proud of. I didn't word it the other way. I want this to be one-sided here, okay?
Okay, what I am very proud of is they all turned out to be great adults.
Thank you. A work in progress. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I believe we've seen an increase in what I would call dysfunctional families in our society. Do you have any words of wisdom that would encourage people to maybe have a stronger family unit?
Let your children know that they are loved and that they are very special.
Okay, right to the point. Let's move on to country. You know, I don't think our country has been more divided than it is now. Was it like this 40 to 60 years ago while you were kind of going through the middle part of your life?
No, not at all. In fact, back then, we respected our leaders. I mean, and that goes right down to law enforcement, our teachers and everything. I think people showed when I was growing up, we showed more respect to all of our leaders, not just our president and, people in government, but local, like your police officers and teachers,
Yep.
people like that.
So you hear a common theme here, respect. I'm hearing a very common theme here. One last question on this subject. What politician, past or present, do you admire and respect the most?
My grandson, Derek, will get a kick out of this. Harry Truman. He started out from humble beginnings, and he still got to be our president. And I know one of the things, of course, I wouldn't be able to happen today. When him and Bess left the White House, they drove away in their car. But at that course, the way our country is today, there's no way a president could leave driving away in their own car because they would need protection.
Yeah, so they were very humble people,
Right,
basically.
Right,
yeah,
they were,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that changed. We'll go on to some fun things here. Do you have any favorite TV shows?
I like soap operas, and I like 60 Minutes. That's probably my favorite things I like to watch on TV. And sports, anything to do with sports, yeah.
Yep. And I know that health and fitness have been an important part of your life. And,
Correct.
Can you give our listeners any insights as to why that's important, especially as you get older?
To eat properly and to exercise, only if it's just walking. I think exercise is very important. And, I think when you exercise, it clears your mind. And then another thing I like to do is do crossword puzzles, because I think that makes you think. And I don't know, it seems like, help your mind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so any special hobbies that you have?
Quilting, I like to quilt, and I like to cook, and I love to bowl. I used to love to dance, but that's a thing of the past, I think.
Yep. Well, you can still listen to music.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, yep. And I know sports has been a big part of your life.
Yes.
Any favorite sports that you like to watch?
I like all. I like football, basketball, and baseball. Until just the last year that I got really interested in watching professional basketball. I used to say that I thought they didn't have the basket up high enough for those tall players. But but I just love to watch.
So it's kind of
sports.
rounded, well-rounded.
Right.
Different sports, yeah. Any favorite athletes that come to mind?
Yes, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers for the Packers, and Stan Musial. I can just remember him, and I know my brothers, Dick and Dale, are still to this day big Cardinal fans. But I can remember, that when Stan Musial played, I remember Dick and I know we went to a ball game, and I'll never remember the Stan Musial came outside of the stadium and waited and gave my brothers his autograph. And nowadays, I think you would have to pay to have an autograph from a player.
Yep.
And I also Yelich from the Brewers and the Giannis from the
Yep.
from the he
Bucks.
is he is such a nice person. I think on and off the court he just shows he is just a great person.
Yeah, they don't have that the cockiness that you see in so many athletes, right?
Right. He is. I noticed just they played in Paris Saturday or
Friday,
I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And he took off his shoes and gave them to one of the kids in the
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. What's something that people would be surprised to learn about you?
That I was very shy.
You were very shy.
Yes, I was.
Okay, I didn't know that.
No. No, that's hard for people to believe.
Did that change at any certain time or just gradually?
Well, I think I can remember, I think what really got me out of that when I was a freshman was being initiated at that time. Oh, that wasn't fun. But anyway, they gave me, I had to dress up as a cowboy or cowgirl, and they gave me a guitar, and I had to sing in front of the whole high school, and I thought, oh my gosh, but I did, I got it out, and I think from then on, that I guess I got out of there.
You got through it.
I got through it, yeah.
over the hurdle.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up. One last question, kind of my favorite one to wrap this up. It kind of sums up everything, I think. If this were your last day on Earth, okay, you've achieved everything you've wanted, what 3 things or truth would you want to pass on to your friends, family, and the world?
That to love your God and your church, and that I raised a great family, and then I tried to live life to its fullest.
And I would give a kudos to that. Yep. So yeah, I want to thank my mom, Shirley, for sharing her insights, her wisdom, her observations with our audience. And, growing up, I knew that both mom and dad we knew they were great role models. And this is why I chose to have mom as my first interviewee. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and share and leave a comment down below. Follow me on Twitter at Ron DeNure. Follow me on Instagram at DeNureRon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ron DeNure. And subscribe to my personal growth recipes on Apple Podcasts. And please give us a 5-star rating if you have been enjoying it. And also, please like and share our Facebook page, Personal Growth Recipes. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday for my upcoming podcast. This is Ron DeNure, your host for Personal Growth Recipes, serving up and signing off.